Because of a misunderstanding, my husband made me kneel and apologize to his little secretary. I refused, so he stuffed me into an airtight container. You're nothing but a dog I keep at home. What right do you have to act all high and mighty? I'll let you out when you learn to bow your head. The high temperatures continued for days. The container, exposed to the sun, was like an oven. I cried out in despair, trying to pry open the door with my hands, my 10 fingers covered in blood. In the end, I was roasted alive. 10 days later, he suddenly remembered me and had someone let me out. But it was too late. I had already become a dried-up corpse. Brother Ji Yan, is Sister Su Qin okay? Is she hurt? Ji Yan stared at the message from Lin Yaoyao on the screen and chuckled. If it were normal, she would have called me and made a fuss a long time ago. That's why I say women, you have to give them a good beating before they listen. The assistant, who was standing beside him waiting for him to sign, suddenly froze, a look of pity on his face. President Ji, you've already locked Sister Su Qin up for 3 days. Should we send someone to check on her? Ji Yan's face darkened, and he slammed the pen heavily on the table. What's there to check? Are you afraid something will happen to her? When I locked her in there, I deliberately hid the remote control for opening the door in the container. She's not an idiot, she can find it, right? The assistant hesitated, stuttering as he spoke. The temperature has been so high these past few days. What if Sister Su Qin can't find the key? Ji Yan smiled coldly. If she's really that stupid, she deserves to die. Alright, I know her too well. A woman like her who's so greedy for wealth and luxury values her life more than anyone else. His assistant wanted to say something more, but he impatiently waved his hand to interrupt him, and could only retreat awkwardly. I floated quietly in the air, watching him pick up his phone, his expression softening. On it was a selfie of Lin Yaoyao. She was pouting, her eyes filled with affection. Brother Yan, don't worry, I'm feeling much better. Let's go eat at that Japanese restaurant I mentioned last time tonight, okay? Ji Yan pursed his lips and smiled, tapping lightly on the screen with his finger. Okay, I'll come pick you up now. I felt a little bitter in my heart, following him as he stepped on the gas and sped away. It was in that very car just a few days ago that he broke my arms and legs and stuffed me into the trunk. The narrow trunk was stuffy and hot, and I felt like I was being thrown into an oven, unable to breathe. I endured the pain and begged him for mercy, only to receive a cold response. It's so noisy, gag her mouth. Unable to find a rag, he had someone pick up a rock and shove it into my mouth. The rock, heated by the scorching sun, was extremely hot, instantly scalding my tongue. I trembled violently in pain, but I couldn't beg for mercy anymore, and could only cry in despair. Just thinking about all this made my heart ache, and I couldn't speak. But I couldn't speak anyway. I was already dead in that dark, cramped container, like a purgatory. Lin Yaoyao walked out the door wearing revealing clothes, a look of surprise on her face, and threw herself into the arms of Ji Yan, who was standing by the car waiting for her. Ji Yan gently stroked her head, his eyes full of affection. Watching this made my eyes a little moist. Yaoyao, have you been having nightmares these past few days? Lin Yaoyao raised her head, her eyes filled with tears, and obediently shook her head. I couldn't help but sneer. She just lost some face, what nightmares could she have? I'm the one who should be having nightmares. Just thinking about being locked in the container that day made me tremble all over. That day he was away on a business trip, and I was resting at home alone. Lin Yaoyao, wearing a mask, woke me up by rummaging through my house. I thought she was a thief, so I called the police. After being taken away by the police, she stubbornly refused to reveal her identity, resulting in her being detained in the detention center for a few days, until Ji Yan returned from his business trip. Looking at the aggrieved Lin Yaoyao, my husband was furious. He dragged me by the hair to the container, and, with a livid face, told me to get inside and reflect. I trembled with fear and begged softly for mercy, but he kicked me in the back, kicking me into the container like a dog. I was thrown into that container, which wasn't even the size of a bathroom, during a period of high temperatures. The inside of the container was as hot as a furnace, causing suffering. The skin on my hands and feet, when touching the container walls, instantly developed blisters. I screamed in terror, desperately begging Ji Yin to let me out. But his eyes were cold, his face expressionless as he said to me, "I was too good to you before. That's why you're so unrestrained. You framed Yao Yao, what's wrong with making you kneel and apologize? Since you like pretending to be virtuous so much, then pretend enough in here. I'll let you out when you learn to be humble." As the door slowly closed in front of me, I was seized with panic and didn't know what to do. I could only rush forward, enduring the pain, desperately pounding on the door that had been baked scorching hot by the sun. In exchange for a glimmer of hope, I knelt behind the door and admitted my mistakes, but only received his cold mockery. "What's the use of apologizing now? Reflect properly inside. A dog should act like a dog. What right do you have to frame my people?" Under the scorching sun, the temperature inside the container rose higher and higher, and my consciousness gradually blurred. I had no strength left and could only lie painfully on the ground, desperately waiting for death. At this moment, Ji Yan was with Lin Yao Yao, enjoying delicious food in an upscale restaurant. And my corpse, in that narrow container, was slowly evaporating moisture until it became a dried corpse. Ji Yan gently picked up a piece of eel and fed it to Lin Yao Yao's mouth. Lin Yao Yao smiled sweetly, her tone coquettish. "Has Sister Su Qin been released? It's been so many days, I'm not sad anymore." Ji Yan's smile froze on his face, a hint of disgust flashing in his eyes. "Why bring her up for no reason? It's bad luck. That kind of woman only knows how to pretend to be virtuous, thinking that being by my side makes her superior. I feel disgusted just thinking about her." "Disgusting? It is pretty disgusting. I'm afraid he'll be even more disgusted when he sees me turned into a dried corpse." Lin Yao Yao pursed her lips, putting on an appearance of not being able to bear it, and said, "Brother Yan, don't say that about Sister Su Qin. I guess she didn't do it on purpose. I was just almost assaulted, it didn't really happen." She lowered her head, feigning sobs. I heard it and felt baffled. When was she almost assaulted, and what did it have to do with me? Seeing her crying like a pear blossom in the rain, Ji Yan was somewhat moved. He pinched Lin Yao Yao's hand, affectionately put it to his lips, and gently kissed it. "Yao Yao, you're just too kind. What's good about forgiving that kind of vicious woman? I shouldn't have left the remote control with her. Let her stay locked up for a few more days, so she can learn how to be an obedient dog." My heart clenched into a ball. That's right, in the few years of our marriage, Ji Yan always emphasized in front of me that I was just a dog. I knew he hated me, so I tried my best to play the role of being well-behaved and obedient, thinking that he would get over it after a few years. I didn't expect that in the end, I even lost my life. He probably doesn't even know that I searched the entire container and couldn't find the so-called remote control he mentioned. Ji Yan had a cold face, a hint of hatred flashing in his eyes. "Yao Yao, you mustn't be soft-hearted towards her. When she's released, I'll definitely take it out on her for you and make her kneel down and apologize to you." The more he spoke, the angrier he got, but the phone on the table suddenly rang. He answered it impatiently, and his assistant told him in a panicked tone on the phone, "President Ji, we just received news that Sister Su Qin. She's already dead." Ji Yan's pupils dilated slightly, and he opened his mouth in surprise. "Who did you say died?" "Sister Su Qin." There was a strange smell coming from the container. When we opened the door, we saw. I thought Ji Yan would at least rush over to collect my corpse, but he just smiled indifferently. "All right, Yanju, I know you have a good relationship with Su Qin, but don't forget your identity. I'm only warning you this once. If you dare collude with her to deceive me again, get out of here immediately." Ji Yan gently stroked Lin Yao Yao's fingers, his tone so indifferent that it was as if he was talking about a trivial matter. "She's faking her death? Then drag her out and feed her to the dogs. I want to see how much she can pretend. If she really gets bitten to death, just find a place to bury her casually. If she's not dead, make her crawl over here on her knees and apologize to our Yao Yao." My heart turned ice cold. I've been entangled with him for so many years. Even if I was really a dog, I would have some feelings, right? But he didn't. He was so cold towards me that even if I died, he would still want to grind my bones to ashes. I suddenly felt indifferent. Whether someone would collect my body, whether he would feel even a sliver of guilt, it didn't matter anymore. Ji Yan impatiently hung up the phone, gazing at Lin Yaoyao with deep affection. I followed his gaze, carefully studying Lin Yaoyao's delicate little face. For some reason, she looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't recall where I had seen her before. Lin Yaoyao's delicate eyebrows were slightly furrowed, making her look particularly pitiful. Is Sister Su Xian angry? Maybe I should apologize to her. After all, this kind of thing isn't really her fault. Ji Yan pulled her close, holding her in his arms, his tone unusually gentle. Yaoyao, you're just too kind. She almost got you assaulted in the detention center. I think she's just jealous and deliberately tried to harm you. After I settle you in, I'll see what tricks she's playing. I'll personally drag her to your feet and make her kneel and bark like a dog until you're happy, okay? I looked at his face, the face I had loved for 10 years, and suddenly felt an overwhelming disgust. I gritted my teeth, wanting to grab his collar and ask him why he was treating me like this, but I couldn't do anything. I could only endure the heartbreak and watch him humiliate me in front of another woman. Ji Yan took Lin Yaoyao's hand, carefully escorting her to the passenger seat. He looked like he was protecting a precious treasure. I sat in the back, my face cold, watching their intimacy without feeling even a trace of emotion. So, people really can give up completely in a certain moment. Ji Yan took Lin Yaoyao back to our home, putting his arm around her waist and settling her in the master bedroom. I couldn't help but sneer. In recent years, Ji Yan had found many women to humiliate me, but he had never brought any of them home. Probably to preserve my laughable reputation as Mrs. G. But now he had brought Lin Yaoyao back, and openly led her into our bedroom. Lin Yaoyao must be very special to him. Special enough that he was willing to risk my life to get revenge for her. Ji Yan reluctantly left the house. As soon as he got into the car, his expression immediately turned cold. He sped off, quickly arriving near the container where I had been locked up. After parking the car, he stormed towards the container. As he approached, he couldn't help but roar. Su Xian, get out here and apologize to me now, and I might let you off. Otherwise, I'll make your life a living hell, worse than a dog's. I followed behind him, shaking my head with a bitter smile. He was always arrogant and deeply misunderstood me. So naturally he wouldn't believe that I was dead. The road was rough and dirt-covered, and he stumbled along, growing increasingly angry. As soon as he reached the entrance of the container, he froze. I followed his gaze and saw that Yan Zhu, along with the people who had locked me up, were kneeling in front of the container, burning paper money for me. In the flickering light of the fire, Yan Zhu was already sobbing. Sister Su Xian, I'm sorry. We never meant to kill you. Amid the cries, Ji Yan suddenly became enraged. He rushed forward and kicked over the brazier. His entire face was distorted with anger. He gritted his teeth, his expression terrifyingly grim, and questioned them, word by word. Are you all out of your minds? Burning paper money. What benefits did Su Xian give you that you're all acting like lunatics and cooperating with her in this act? Yan Zhu lowered his head, looking pained. President Ji, Sister Su Xian is really dead. Her body is in the container, waiting for you to deal with. Ji Yan couldn't help but sneer, a flash of cruelty in his eyes. Fine, since she loves acting so much, I'll grant her wish today. Even if she's not dead, I'll send her to the crematorium and burn her. Ji Yan's face was dark as he kicked open the door of the container. My heart instantly leaped into my throat. The floor of the container had a patch of dried blood, surrounded by horrifying scratch marks. Everything indicated the pain I suffered before death. I only glanced at it once before my eyes widened. The corpse that should have been lying quietly on the ground was now gone. The high temperatures of the past few days had fermented, filling the entire container with a foul stench. Ji Yan covered his nose and strode inside. He looked around with disgust, and after confirming that I wasn't there, he roared in a fit of rage. Su Xian, how much longer are you going to pretend? You could even create such a foul environment. I really didn't misjudge you. You're just a stinking bitch who'll stop at nothing to get what she wants. He kicked the walls of the container a few times in anger, then turned and stormed out. Yan Zhu was about to speak when he saw him come out. but Ji Yin grabbed him by the collar. You told me Su Xian was dead, where's the body? You think you can fool me with a pool of fake blood? Contact her immediately. If she's not home in half an hour, I'll make her regret it. Yan Zhu was frightened by his fierce appearance, his voice trembling uncontrollably. President Ji, Sister Su Xian's body was just inside, what's going on? Ji Yan sneered. You're asking me? Do you think I'm an idiot? I'm giving you one chance. Find her immediately and bring her back to the villa, otherwise you don't need to show your face in front of me tomorrow. Ji Yan pushed Yan Zhu to the ground, refusing to listen to any explanations. No one noticed that among the group of people guarding the door, a man was secretly leaving. I wanted to follow him to see what he was up to, but I was involuntarily pulled back to Ji Yan's side. Ji Yan returned to the car, still upset, and slammed the steering wheel a few times. Luckily I'm already dead, otherwise, with his temper, who knows how he would humiliate and torture me again. I followed him back to the villa, and as soon as the door opened, Lin Yaoyao ran downstairs and threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Brother Ji, you weren't here just now, someone sent a letter with photos inside, they're very scary. Ji Yan's expression turned serious, and he took the photos Lin Yaoyao handed him, and began to look through them. I also leaned over to look with him. The photos showed my dried and dehydrated corpse. My whole body was curled up in a ball, my face bearing the terrified expression I had at the moment of death. It was indeed quite scary, enough to give people nightmares. Ji Yan was shaking with anger. He crumpled the photos into a ball in his hand, a look of ruthlessness flashing in his eyes. Lin Yaoyao was crying, almost unable to breathe. She leaned on Ji Yan's shoulder and asked him with a wronged expression, Is Sister Su Xian very angry? Why would she do something like this to scare me? Ji Yan, what did I do wrong? Can I apologize to her? Please tell her not to scare me. She cried pitifully, looking like she had been terribly frightened. Ji Yan held her in his arms and comforted her gently. Yaoyao, don't be afraid, you didn't do anything wrong, it's all that bitch Su Xian's fault. Don't worry, I will definitely catch her and break her legs, and see if she dares to scare you again. Lin Yaoyao blushed in his arms, her eyes lowered, looking delicate and charming. Ji Yan couldn't restrain himself, and lowered his head to kiss her lips. The two of them, without any pretense, were passionately entwined in front of me, making my eyes slightly red. They were a perfect match, deeply in love. It would be a great sin if I weren't dead. Looking at Lin Yaoyao's enraptured face, I suddenly remembered where I had seen her before. The way she kissed was almost identical to Ji Yan's long-dead white moonlight. The reason I hadn't recognized her all along was because I had never seen Ji Yan's white moonlight. Even her photos had been burned to ashes by Ji Yan after her death. The only one left was a photo of them kissing. On countless nights, he had locked himself in his room, holding that photo and weeping bitterly. And all his hatred for me was simply because I was the one who killed his white moonlight. My first meeting with Ji Yan was at a recruitment fair after graduation. At that time, I was being harassed by the HR manager of a company. I stood in the crowd, blushing, so upset I was about to cry. And Ji Yan happened to pass by me. He got me out of the situation, and hired me into the company as his assistant. Working closely with him day and night, I gradually fell in love with him. But I also knew that my status was too different from his. I was not worthy of him. I always knew that he had his own white moonlight, but a small assistant like me was not worthy of seeing her. If it weren't for that accident, there would never have been any intersection between us. Ji Yan's company holds a charity gala every year. After the event that night, he messaged me saying he had a headache, and asked me to bring him some hangover medicine. I raced across half the city to get it for him. As soon as I arrived at his door, he pulled me into his arms. His eyes were unfocused as he carried me into his room. I liked him so much. Knowing it was wrong, I still plunged in like a moth to a flame. The next morning, clear-headed, he grabbed my throat and his face contorted, demanded why I'd seduced him. He nearly strangled me, and my words died in my chest. The door opened silently. Ji Yan's great love. The woman he couldn't let go, stood there in tears looking at us entangled and naked. After that day, she sank into serious depression. No matter how Ji Yan tried to explain, She wouldn't believe him. Ji Yan threw a wad of cash at me, told me to get as far away as possible, and to never show up in front of them again. 6 months later, his beloved's condition worsened. One night, in front of him, she resolutely jumped from a tall building. I heard he almost jumped after her, but was held back. After handling the aftermath, Ji Yan found me hiding in a remote town. When he got down on one knee and proposed, I was so happy I nearly fainted. I thought I'd see sunshine after the storm, but I didn't realize he was marrying me just to torture me and avenge his great love. I endured endless humiliation and comforted myself late into many nights, telling myself if I held on, he'd uncover the truth. But when I reached the breaking point, he shoved me into the abyss with his own hands, breaking me to pieces, wishing me to die horribly. He grabbed my hair and dragged me to the entrance of the shipping container. I cried and begged him to let go. Yin, please let me go. I'm 2 months pregnant now. If you care even a bit about the baby inside me, don't do this. He sneered and stepped on my stomach. You lying slut. Think I'll fall for your bullshit and let you go? You drugged me to bed back then to climb your way up. Did you think I'd forget? I could have demanded repayment for NN, but I held back. You didn't repent. Even if death comes, that's what you reap. He threw me into that hellish container, cutting off my way out with his own hands. It wasn't until that moment I felt regret for the first time, hating my own stupidity. What I thought was love turned out to be nothing but a joke in someone else's story. I never imagined I'd be forced to stand by the bed, watching my husband passionately with another woman. That humiliation burned like nothing else. Now I'm missing, or maybe dead, but he's not worried in the slightest. Instead, he revels in pleasure. I was utterly powerless, despite my unbearable resentment. I stood dumbly by the bed, watching them fall asleep in each other's arms. Meanwhile, I crouched in a corner, hugging my knees, waiting for dawn. The next morning, Lin Yaoyao was still asleep when Ji Yan quietly got up and personally made her breakfast. The eggs were cooked just right, the bread neatly cut into heart shapes. It made me want to cry bitterly. 3 years of marriage, and he never once bought me breakfast. But for her, he poured his heart into it. I watched him smile warmly as he served that heart-shaped breakfast, gently woke Lin Yaoyao, fed her bite by bite, tears shining in his eyes. So he isn't incapable of caring. He just never chose to care about me. It doesn't matter now. After all, I'm already gone. Whoever he loves from now on has nothing to do with me. Before leaving, he finally remembered me. The last semblance of warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by coldness. Effortlessly, he tapped open my chat window, probably to send another threatening message. He looked at the last message I sent him and froze. It was timestamped 10 days ago, and I hadn't contacted him even once since. That would have been impossible before. He sensed something was off. Panic flickered briefly in his expression. He searched for my number about to call, when Lin Yaoyao suddenly hopped in front of him, made a silly face, and looped her arm around him. Big brother Ji Yan, let's go. He snapped back to reality, pocketed his phone, and affectionately wiped her nose. I followed behind them to the cemetery, and it occurred to me that today was the memorial day for Ji Yan's great love. For 3 years, he spent every anniversary by her grave. I once offered to accompany him, but he always refused with a cold face. Sushin, do you think you deserve it? You, that slut, going to her grave would pollute her soul's path. He never took anyone to her grave, except Lin Yaoyao. I thought he would definitely introduce Lin Yaoyao to his white moonlight, and then they would pay their respects together. But when we arrived at the grave, Ji Yan hadn't even spoken when Lin Yaoyao expertly arranged the offerings, knelt in front of the tombstone, and looked sorrowful. Sister, I came to see you with brother-in-law. At that moment, I felt like I had been struck by lightning. So that's why he treated Lin Yaoyao so specially, because she was the younger sister of Ji Yan's white moonlight. No wonder she looked familiar, and no wonder he was so irritable, even willing to use my life to atone for her. I shook my head with a bitter smile, realizing that I had lost completely from the very beginning. Lin Yaoyao knelt in front of the tombstone, crying pitifully, before finally turning her head and asking Ji Yan with a pitiful look, Brother Yan, can you let me have a few words with my sister alone? Ji Yan nodded gently, took out a cigarette, and walked away to light it. Once his back was turned, the sorrow on Lin Yaoyao's face vanished. A hint of triumph flashed in her eyes as she looked at the portrait on the tombstone with a slight smile. Sister, you didn't expect this, did you? Ji Yan treats me differently because of you. You might as well have died for a reason. If you had listened to me and given Ji Yan to me back then, you wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. You were so fragile. I only told you that Ji Yan was drugged by me and that's why he slept with another woman, and you couldn't handle the shock and died. But what good did it do? Ji Yan still fell in love with me. She laughed a little maniacally, taking a thin piece of paper from her bag. You left a suicide note, wanting Ji Yan to know the truth, but I hid it anyway. Now I'll burn it for you, so you can completely give up your thoughts. Your brother Ji Yan will never discover the truth, and even that bitch Su Xian is dead. Ji Yan will be mine from now on. She lit the suicide note and placed it in front of the grave. Smiling, she stood up and ran lightly towards Ji Yan. My heart was pounding, and I lunged forward frantically, wanting to put out the flames with my hands. But I was powerless. I was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, unwilling to let Lin Yaoyao destroy the evidence and get away with it. Both she and Ji Yan should pay the price for my death. Perhaps my obsession was too strong. A gust of wind swept through. The burning paper was swept into the air, then slowly fell back to the ground, the fire extinguished, lying quietly in front of the tombstone. I moved closer to examine it. Fortunately, only a small corner had been burned. The writing on it was still clearly discernible. I was relieved, and suddenly pulled back to Ji Yan by a strong force. He was holding Lin Yaoyao's hand, walking out of the cemetery with a happy expression. As soon as they left the cemetery, Yanzhu called. President Ji, Sister Su Xian's body has been found, buried in a vacant lot not far from the container. Shut up. Ji Yan's face was terribly gloomy. He clenched his teeth, seeming to be very angry. Yan, if you talk nonsense again, believe me, I'll skin you alive. Is Su Xian someone so stupid? I put the remote control inside too. How could she die? Yanzhu couldn't hold back anymore and roared with a hint of crying. Ji Yan, there is no so-called remote control of yours. Ji Yan's eyes became confused and he asked in surprise. What did you say? There's no remote control. Su Xian was already dead when we got there. The door was locked properly. We searched every corner, but there was no remote control. Ji Yan looked at Lin Yaoyao in confusion. She pouted and leaned into his arms like a spoiled child. Brother Yan, I clearly put it inside that day. Sister Su Xian must have incited them to lie to you. I couldn't help but laugh. No wonder there was no key. Lin Yaoyao was behind it all. It's a pity Ji Yan is so blind and deaf that he refuses to believe it no matter what. The Lin Yaoyao he sees as kind and understanding is actually so vicious and heartless. After receiving Lin Yaoyao's reply, Ji Yan's eyes turned sinister again. Enough, stop pretending, Yan, you're fired. He hung up the phone, his hands trembling with anger. But the phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. Mr. Ji, your wife has an appointment for a prenatal checkup today, but she hasn't arrived. We wanted to ask if something has delayed her. Ji Yan sneered. What, are you actors she hired too? Pregnant? I haven't even touched her. He suddenly stopped, his eyes panicked. He probably remembered a late night 2 months ago, when he drunk, pinned me against the wall, calling out the name of his white moonlight, and kissed me. That was the first time he touched me after our marriage. This time, Ji Yan visibly panicked, his words becoming incoherent. She's pregnant? And she missed her checkup? After receiving confirmation, Ji Yan froze, his phone slipping from his grasp and falling to the ground. We'd been married for 3 years, and he knew how much I longed for a child. With my personality, there was no way I would miss a prenatal checkup, unless something had really happened to me. Brother Yan, I'm tired, let's go back. Lin Yaoyao eagerly hugged his arm, but he unexpectedly pushed her away. Ji Yan's face was pale. He dragged her to the car, and using an excuse, took her home before leaving again. For 3 whole days, Ji Yan was busy searching everywhere for my whereabouts. But he discovered with despair and helplessness that I had truly disappeared. There were no credit card spending records, and I couldn't be reached by phone. He could only call Assistant Yan, only to find that he had been blacklisted. He even kept sending me messages, threatening me to come home immediately. Su Xian, you get out here. The moment I find you, I'm divorcing you. I couldn't help but sneer. Search away, you'll never find me anyway. Even if you did find me, I would already be a dried up, rotting corpse. I'm so sorry this time you can only be a widower, you can't get divorced. Ji Yan grew more and more frantic, and more desperate. 3 days later, he dragged his exhausted body home. But a police car was parked at the door. Lin Yaoyao was being escorted by the police, ready to get into the car. Ji Yan's already fragile nerves completely collapsed at that moment. He roared and rushed forward, knocking the police officers aside, and pulled Lin Yaoyao behind him, shielding her. His eyes were bloodshot, like a demon. What are you doing? Why are you arresting Yaoyao? Did that bitch Su Xian find another reason to frame her? Even now he still thought I was trying to harm his little secretary. I rushed forward in grief and indignation, wanting to strangle him, to ask him if he had a heart at all. But the next second, he was pinned to the ground by the police. Even so, he still struggled unwillingly, until a piece of paper was thrown in front of him. It was his White Moonlight's suicide note. Ji Yan lay on the ground, staring in disbelief at the familiar handwriting on the paper. The police officer's eyes towards him were filled with undisguised contempt. Lin Yaoyao and Ji Yan were both taken away. In the forensic lab, Ji Yan finally saw my body. I was still curled up, covered with a white sheet, lying quietly on the autopsy table. Ji Yan stumbled to me, reached out and pinched a corner of the white sheet, but never had the courage to lift it. The staff member next to him looked at him with disdain, and impatiently stepped forward to help him lift it. He wailed, his legs went weak, and he knelt down in front of me. He trembled as he reached out, wanting to touch my body, but withdrew as if electrocuted. He covered his face and wept uncontrollably. Xian, how could you die? I wanted nothing more than to strangle him. How could I die? How could I not die? In that scorching heat, he cruelly locked me in a container. I want him to experience every ounce of the pain I felt before I died. Even the torture of being fried in oil wouldn't compare. And he still has the nerve to ask me how I could die. Ji Yan crawled towards me, wanting to see the expression on my face. But that face was twisted in pain, unrecognizable. He was so frightened that he leaned back and collapsed on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. He looked pathetic, but I felt no sympathy for him. Even the staff had no sympathy for him. Mr. G, your wife was 2 months pregnant before she died. We have already removed the fetus. You can take a look. His eyes widened as he stared at the tiny embryo on the tray. A trace of despair appeared on his face. He suddenly laughed and reached out to take the tray, holding it carefully in his arms. I'm sorry, I was too stupid. How could I do this to you? Xian, I was wrong. Can you open your eyes and look at me? Xian, get up. I'll take you and the baby home, okay? He repeatedly confessed and begged in front of me, for so long that the staff couldn't bear it any longer and dragged him out. He still refused to leave, kneeling outside the forensics room, crying until he fainted. Even though the facts were already clear, due to the passage of time and lack of concrete evidence, Lin Yaoyao was still released. However, the time she spent in detention was enough for Ji Yan to uncover the truth. Lin Yaoyao is Lin Yinan's half-sister. Back then, she was jealous that Lin Yinan was about to marry into a wealthy family. She deliberately snuck into the party and drugged Ji Yan. Afterwards, when Lin Yinan's condition worsened, she deliberately came to her door to tell her the truth, provoking her to jump off the building. Lin Yaoyao fled abroad out of fear, waiting until things died down before daring to return home. She deliberately framed me, suggested locking me in a container as punishment, and lied to Ji Yan that she would leave the key in the container. After I died, she had her ex-boyfriend take my body away and bury it. As for her claim of being raped in the detention room, it was completely fabricated. When Ji Yan went to investigate, the police looked at him as if he were an idiot. Raped in the detention room? Do you think that's possible? We have surveillance cameras here. Why didn't you come and check? Ji Yan's face was terrifyingly pale as he stumbled out of the police station. I stood beside him, feeling extremely sad. It turns out he was so anxious he didn't even bother to investigate, and pinned a fabricated charge on me, causing me to lose my life. I hate his stupidity, and I hate myself even more for being so blind. Years of infatuation ended with such a fate. The day Lin Yaoyao was released, Ji Yan waited for her at the gate. As soon as she came out, he abducted her into his car. He forced Lin Yaoyao to take him to her ex-boyfriend, stabbing him a full 18 times with a fruit knife he carried with him. He kept crying my name, saying he wanted to avenge me, but I just felt disgusted and wanted to vomit. Covered in blood, he grabbed Lin Yaoyao by the neck and stuffed her into the car. He sped all the way to the riverbank. He closed his eyes, a smile appearing on his lips. Xin, I brought her here to atone for you, okay? Amidst Lin Yaoyao's screams, he smiled and stepped on the gas, driving straight into the river. The icy river water quickly filled the entire car. Lin Yaoyao smashed the glass, trying to escape, but Ji Yan held onto her ankle tightly. She struggled in despair, just like I did back then. She gradually fell silent in agony. In his dying moments, Ji Yan suddenly looked up in my direction. His lips moved, asking me, Xin, are you here to pick me up? I slowly shook my head. I'm just here to see how miserably you die. He reached out futilely to grab me, but could only let his hand fall limply. After he died, I finally turned to leave. Behind me, a cute little girl floated. I smiled, took her hand, and left without looking back. This life has ended. In the next life, I will find a good man again. Ji Yan, goodbye forever.